Hey guys, Uncle Pip here. Welcome to Albany, and this is the USS Slater that's behind me. Let's dive in.
And we are now getting on board the USS Slater. This is a destroyer escort that is a ship that was used by the United States Navy during World War II. This particular ship was first used as a training vessel, and then by the end of 1944, I believe December of 1944, it sailed convoy duty in the Atlantic Ocean. 1945, it continued with convoy duty across the Atlantic several more times, and today it is the only destroyer escort still in World War II attire in the world, and it is the only destroyer escort in the United States of America. I believe there's only like 4 or 5 left in the world, but the others have been modernized, where this one has been restored to look like how it did during World War II. Now the big guns and stuff on it are of course for anti-aircraft, and when they said, hey, you can get on it, obviously there I go. Because why not? Something else I want to talk about is all of the music that you're hearing in the background for this particular episode of Pip's Plans have some type of a sailing theme to them. This song is Sailing, the next one is Sailor's Song, and then after that will be the Sea Ritual, followed by the Wedding Invitation, and then I wrap it up by the Midshipman singing Drunken Sailor. Now you might be confused as to where the Wedding Invitation comes into play, and that's because this ship is in Albany, New York. That's upstate New York, and a friend of mine was getting married in Albany, well, a small town outside of Albany, and that's why I was up here in the first place. This is a side trip in addition to my actual trip. Now, this particular gun has a sight on it that I do want to talk about. This sight was top secret. The tour guide is actually starting up a small compressor, and he was explaining we didn't even share this information with the rest of the Allies. This was so top secret, and what it does is it's an anti-aircraft gun, but as the ship is moving up and down with the waves, it's automatically adjusting for the sights. And of course there I am spinning it around, and I got to aim it. It's pretty cool. It just stayed level right wherever you pointed it. Now with that said, the rest of this video is going to be a deeper dive, because I actually paid for the 2-hour tour. This is my sales pitch. If you're ever in New York, you must go see the USS Slater. These are depth charges up here, and there was, of course, those are for submarines, and yeah, we got a bunch of them on the ship. I'll walk you around and show you some more. But what I was saying is, it's a non-profit organization, and I highly recommend you go visit, you go check it out. Or you could even go on their YouTube channel. Just look on YouTube, USS Slater, and you will find it. There's a bunch of information. I'm not trying to give away everything, because you just have to do the research on your own. Again, these are more depth charges. But there was some things that I wanted to talk about. One was they offered a half-hour tour, a 6-hour, or a 6-hour. It's a 1-hour tour, a 2-hour tour, or a half-hour tour. And I took the 2-hour tour. And the 2-hour tour turned into a 4-hour tour, and I could not have been happier with how it turned out. So, of course, now we're below decks, and we're actually heading towards the engine room. And what was fascinating to me was learning there's a 3-cylinder generator, there are 2 8-cylinder generators, And then there are 4 16-cylinder diesel engines. And that is what powers this ship. This table here, you see a piston. On the left is a giant piston, and on the right is a small piston. The one on the right came from a car. The one on the left came from this ship. So you can just see the size comparison. And I just think that is fascinating. Now the reason that there's 4 16-cylinder motors in this is because one was always down for maintenance, because you always have to keep up on your maintenance, and there's a rotation as to which one goes out of service. But if you're out in the middle of the sea, you need to be able to continue to move without overstretching the ability of that engine. So they had a rotation, then they had a backup. So you have one's down for maintenance, one's your actual backup that you're not going to be using unless there's an emergency, and then you have 2 that you can rotate between. And there's just some more shots of them. Absolutely amazing. To see this in person is amazing. Highly recommend you go. This is a soundproof box with a phone in it. And I was kind of following the exhaust. There is a guy who is currently working on these engines. He's working on one of them, and the goal is to get that running on its own power. Of course, we're not at war, so we don't need all 4 of them to be running. We don't need to have that rotation because we're not planning on taking it out to sea. But to be able to have it sailing again on its own power, that's pretty cool. And the John Brown does that in Baltimore. So if you're ever in the Baltimore, Maryland area, go check out the John Brown. That's a Liberty ship. Again, we're on a destroyer escort right now, and it's just fascinating stuff. Before I started this channel, I was actually on 2 different battleships, the Missouri and later the Norfolk. So obviously I just like World War II stuff, but there's the 3-cylinder generator. And to me it's just fascinating to see all this. Now, after we've looked at the engines, there is a propeller shaft underneath us, 1 deck below. And that's what the engines are running. It's running that propeller shaft. And we're actually walking the entire length of the ship to get to the other end where the propeller is. And of course, that's your sick bay. There's a small hospital, if you will. Another thing about the Slater, this is the largest collection of World War II Navy uniforms I've ever seen in my life. They also have a private museum. You have to pay for the 2-hour tour to go to the private museum. So again, something else, just pay the extra money. It's amazing, totally worth it. And here's the museum. I'm intentionally not filming every part of this museum, but I wanted you to see a little bit of what it looks like, because it's fascinating, but at the same time, you just have to go see it yourself. It's that simple.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning,
I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for another great episode. I'll see you next time.